Hi there, traders. This is Brad Gilbert with the Daily Market Insight for Tuesday, the 12th of April. All right, there's plenty going on in the market's pretty pumped for the upcoming US inflation data. Right, it's a key sign of or a key component to most commentary at the moment. Obviously, has massive impacts or implications for interest rates in the US. Really strong numbers, which the market is expecting, have got to get the Fed on the front foot again, and we should see rates going up. Now, the numbers are really low. Well, we're going to see the opposite happen in the markets and the pressure taken off the Fed. Either way, we're going to see equity markets, currencies, and potentially the cryptos all moving over the next sort of 24 hours. So when you come back to the general market itself, and I'll cover the charts in a second, you're just having a look here now. It'll become a bit more apparent on the charts. If you're looking at the crypto space, okay, I was talking about this yesterday, Bitcoin, it's like the equity markets, North American equity markets, right? They are the king of the markets, and they drive the Asian, European equity markets and UK equity markets sort of in the same direction. Now, when Bitcoin in itself triggers a big level, it puts pressure on all the other cryptos. And that's exactly what we've seen. I'll show that in the charts in a minute. But there's something actually really good about the cryptos at the moment. And those traditional traders out there that haven't really got involved, and it's just, you know, I've been looking at it for a couple of years, but not really actively trading it. There's something really good about this that you need to pay attention to, and I'll cover that shortly. Now, North American equity markets, they are under the pump, right? They are expecting bad numbers. When I say bad numbers, really strong US inflation numbers are going to really give this thing a big shake. We could see 2-3% down days for the rest of the week. At the moment, the US equity futures, right, signaling where those equity markets are going to open up, they are once again in the red. Are we seeing the currency sort of play much? Well, not at the moment, right? We're in the Asian session. There's little liquidity going through at the moment. The big events are in Europe and North America this week. And so that's where the focus is. Euro and sterling sort of trickling lower. Aussie and Kiwi, if anything, a little bit pepped up with the commodities. Some of these commodities are rallying. Well, it's actually a bit of a mixed bag. We've got oil sort of drifting lower, and we've got so some of the metals popping up, right? So that commodities sort of basket looks a little bit peculiar at the moment because some different things in the basket are behaving differently. And obviously the currencies they are associated with will behave in relation to what's happening on the commodities, right? So that's where you can get a little bit sort of confused with what's going on. North American equities, right? The direct impact on the, as I was saying, Australasian, Asian, European, including the UK equity markets there as well. Okay, so that's what's happening across the board. Now, if I come across to the charts, this is where I can run through and give you a really good visual of what's happening. The dollar index, okay, measuring the dollar against a basket of currencies, 58% of which is euro. No surprising it's higher with the pressure on the euro. Now, I went through this yesterday, the upcoming French elections, the far right, if they get in, they're talking about dropping out of the EU. Massive negative impact for the EU and Euro itself. As far as the commodities go, right, we're starting to see gold with the uncertainty around the US inflation numbers. I mean, the Ukrainian-Russian situation is, as far as the market's concerned, are completely done. They're starting to come back a bit. We've got the the ECB on Thursday as well. So there's a bit of maybe a flight into a bit of safety ahead of these numbers, right? And I was mentioning this a couple of days ago as well, and this is something with the cryptos as well. They are trading exceptionally well technically, right? A key breakdown there in oil. You see this thing roll over, and it's had a bit of a clean out down towards 90 or 93, the figure down that way. That downward move in oil should be putting upward pressure on dollar CAD. We'll check that out. Now, I've changed some of these charts over to hourly so you can see exactly what's going on. You get a bit more of a technical picture. We've had that big relief rally on the equity markets, but now they are set. I mean, you've got some clear targets here where these S&P 500 and the NASDAQ are sort of heading to. I went through this yesterday as well, a breakdown through that 42.5 level around there. has seen a really big clean out on the downside on Bitcoin, and the commodities, well, it has been going up, but it is trading sideways at the moment. And that's because we got a bit of a mixed reaction here on some of these commodities. Right, let me just whip through the different sectors. Forex, well, dollar index, have been through that. Dollar Swiss, just chopping around in a big range. I'm surprised it's not a little bit higher with the fact that there's pressure on the euro downside. So keep an eye on that. If anything, it looks like it'll make up ground if euro continues lower. The good thing is euro, sterling, and now we're seeing the Aussie and Kiwi starting to roll over. The good thing about the Aussie and Kiwi, though, if you're looking at those opportunities, they are just breaking down, and the Kiwi actually hasn't broken down yet. So I expect those two pairs to be playing catch up with euro and sterling, okay, especially on strong US numbers. And then also, depending on what the ECB do, these things could all be a lot lower. Aussie and Kiwi have been very highly inflated with the commodity index and everything else rallying. And obviously their geographical location in regards to the European issue with Russia and Ukraine, they were sort of enjoying a bit of a safe haven status. Now that is rolling over. I've got to say there's a big chance to see a bit of a correction here. Aussie down to 73, Kiwi almost down to 66.5. All right, so that's actually just on the top side there. I've got to mention oil falling, pushing dollar CAD to the top side. Okay, so once again, the market is factored in last Friday's Canadian employment numbers. Now looking forward, oil's the main driver here at the moment. Obviously, the dollar, the inflation numbers will have an impact there. Dollar yen is really enjoying the blue skies up here at the moment, and it's back to where it was. It usually is traditionally, right? It's a dollar trade. So if the dollar's rallying, well, the yen's neutral. So you can see that that's just enjoying the move topside. If anything, you got to think dollar index and dollar yen are correlating extremely high at the moment. So keep an eye on that sort of correlation. Now, if I come back across here, equity markets. Now, once again, I've changed all these charts to hourly charts so you can get a better perspective of where the levels are, right? If I showed you the like the global equities list here, right? You can see how they all work together. US equities, it's a sea of red, right? It's just nasty when they turn. Primarily what you can do is keep an eye on the US equities and the equity futures, and that will sort of flow into all these other instruments. It's going to be a big directional force coming up with the obviously US inflation numbers later today. Now, the volatility index slowly creeping up. You know, it has been sort of just drifting down after the Russia-Ukraine situation eased. Now we're sort of trading sideways, and now it's starting to pop, and rightly for good reason. You know, the big numbers in the US, it's going to send things a little bit chaotic. So you can see here that we've got some levels. I still think the equity markets are overvalued, heading lower. It's good to have some technical picture here, though. The Nikkei here still on the daily charts is rolling over with the other equity markets, and you can see here you get a good picture. They are all behaving quite similar. The FTSE, on the other hand, is actually outperforming everything, and Australian All Ords there sort of just rolling over as well. Like, they trade technically quite well, and you're waiting for these instruments to turn. I think they have turned already, quite a few of them. You can see where they've topped out. Obviously, the sterling or the FTSE, the odd one out, but these other instruments have sort of topped out. The stocks, they're not exactly sort of falling out of bed, but if I can just get that across, no, it's not moving. It hasn't gone as far, but we'll see how that goes with the ECB. Obviously, plenty to play for there. Coming over to the cryptos now, I was just having a really good look through this, and you know, you can see clearly the move down here. It's I mean, it's not necessarily obvious. It's just clear as day. Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum on the daily charts, right? They're sort of just cruising around. But on the hourlies, this is what I was coming back to at the start of this webinar, is if you haven't looked at these before for trading opportunities, then I would suggest you do so. And I was just saying some time ago how well technically these instruments are trading. Better than most of the currencies and most other things like equities, currencies, yeah, sure, they come in and out of play. But because these markets are driven differently with different fundamentals, they trade technically massively. I've left all these previous trend lines in here around the orange technical levels. You can see where it's broken through those levels quite cleanly. Okay, even Litecoin here, 2, 3, 4, like 4 levels here, which are just normal technical analysis. And when it's broken through these levels, it has just run for the hills, right? So I think it's time, if you are looking at sort of getting a bit of diversity in your trading, check the cryptos out, because as I said, they are trading exceptionally well across the board, right? And with that, and it's not only are they good trading technically, they are outrageously trending, right? When they go down. When they go up, they go up, right? So make sure you have a look at that. I'll leave that up here for the next few days. So it gives you a better perspective of what's going on. If you're looking at the daily charts, of course, you've got a top here and a bottom on the Bitcoin. Really, it's not quite there yet on Litecoin, but you do have a support level. And we've got some levels here on Ethereum as well. But I've got to say, I was not flabbergasted, but pretty much close to it when I saw how well technically these have been trading, right? So make sure that you put them on the radar. And for that matter, the commodities here also performing quite well technically. Now, you can see here, light crude and Brent crude just cruising to the downside, right? Massively overdone. As I said, the Russia-Ukraine situation seems to be done. Oil supply seems to be coming back. One key thing to be looking at here is iron ore. If this is a daily chart, actually, most of the others are hourly charts. If this starts to drop dramatically, I think that's where it's going to really impact the Aussie dollar. We can see that really get some momentum cruising there. As I mentioned before, gold is trickling higher. We've got a bit of a top here, horizontal top, around 1965. Copper going lower. That's going to put downward pressure on the Aussie. And here's silver going up. So some of the metals going up, some going down, oil going down, and iron ore holding there at the moment, but it looks like ready to go. That's why the commodities basket is a bit of a basket case at the moment. All right. So when you come back to looking at where that raw nerve is, as I said before, follow the markets, where the pressure points are. Now, US inflation numbers, very important for the commodity or the equity markets. Okay, not so much commodities straight away, but we might see some action there. So keep an eye on the various components here of the data, year on year, non-seasonally averaged and seasonally adjusted, I should say. And that's where we're going to get some interest, right? Equity markets come off, they get hit. We may see a clear risk-off situation. So if we see a sea of red here, we may see Euro, Sterling, Aussie, Kiwi to the downside. That's a risk-off profile. Okay. Now, it's sort of one of those weird ones. Do really bad or really good US numbers, right? It pushes this down. Does that drive the dollar up or down? You almost have to wait and just see what's going on. If the risk-on, risk-off profile from the equity markets to the currencies in play, a downward move in the equities would be Euro, Sterling, Aussie, Kiwi going down and the dollar going up. That's what you have to wait and see. Hopefully it is, because it's an easy trade then to know what to do. You just watch the equity markets, and if they start to turn around, well, then you just get out of your positions on the currencies. Commodities, keep an eye on those. As I said, some are going up, some are going down. A little bit tricky. If you are looking for that equity move to be a risk-on, risk-off profile, check the risk-on, risk-off pairs. Safe havens, well, they are a bit in play at the moment, so I'd be keeping a close eye on that as we go through the next 12, 16 hours. Now, leading up to the US numbers, we do have, traditionally some really solid employment numbers out of the UK. Keep an eye on those average earnings. That's a key part of it. Sterling, is it moving around on this stuff? I'm not so sure just at the moment, but keep an eye on it. And the ZEW numbers, right? These are traditionally really good number that gives Euro very clear direction, right? So I'd be watching that closely. But of course, the US CPI numbers are the main game. That's what all the commentary is going to be about. That's what everything's focusing on. That's why the markets are a little bit hyped up. And that's what you need to be focusing on for yourself. All right, guys, that's it from me. A fair bit of coverage there, but pretty exciting. Once you get these big numbers that have implications for policy, etc., come into play, that's when everyone's watching, especially the pros. So make sure you're tuning in, and we'll see how things play out. All right, guys, all the best. Cheerio.